It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. Today's video is on failure. A lot of my projects over the last few months have resulted in failure. Actually, almost every project I've ever taken on, specifically in this game, has resulted in failure. 9 times out of 10 when I'm piecing together weird parts of the game across one another while trying to come to some complex resolve, well, that resolve never comes. But I do always find something out that's unique and does typically help me later on in some other adventure that's completely unrelated. Side note here, but kind of related, I've experienced failure across many different platforms, many different projects, not just in the game but in real life, and I'm still trying to find myself in real life and possibly even on this game. We're all just out here still trying to find ourselves, and we are experiencing failures, but we want to learn from those failures, and that's what today's video is about. Even if it's kind of a nerdy approach and we're literally talking about bug finds in RuneScape. This video once again is just going to be another terrible video, I'll put that out there straight off the bat, but you will learn some things from it, and there's going to be 3 solutions I'm looking for in today's video. If you all have any ideas for these, put them in the comments below, as, you know, maybe we'll come to some kind of conclusion and maybe I missed something. Specifically today we're going to be looking at how to 1. Do Fremennik trials with no XP past the initial patch, which I showed in my other video. 2. Enter TOA on a level 3 without the completion of the quest Beneath Cursed Sands and get a cosmetic from that. And 3. Either avoid the 20 attack requirement for Excalibur during Holy Grail for Knight's Sword, or avoid the massive XP reward from Knight's Training Ground, as I want to make a Piety obby without having to have 35 attack being the lowest possible level after all those XP rewards and the 20 attack requirement. But before we get into the failures of today's video, as well as the smaller discoveries inside of those failures, I wanted to thank our sponsor of today's video, World of Warships. World of Warships is a free-to-play game available on PC. They have new content released every month, whether it's new ships, in-game nations, cosmetics, or even ship classes, and you can always count on enjoying fresh gameplay experiences in World of Warships' stunning 12v12 arenas. This game has amazing graphics with more than 40 unique maps, all with dynamic weather. There's multiple ship classes to choose from where you can conquer the oceans aboard history's most iconic battleships, destroyers, aircraft carriers, or cruisers and submarines. Since the launch of the game, they've added over 600 ships across 10 different nations. The ships in this game are designed and based on historical documents and actual blueprints from the first half of the 20th century, so you get that very realistic feel playing this game. From November 16th to November 30th, there's an in-game event collaboration between World of Warships and the popular High School Fleet anime series. And I forgot to mention, World of Warships is not available only on PC, but across multiple consoles as well. So check out World of Warships today by using the first link in the description. During registration, use the promo code HSF2023 to receive a huge starter pack including 200 doubloons, 1 million credits, 7 days of premium account time, and 2 High School Fleet commanders. So between episodes of my ongoing series of the Defense Saga, which I'll now be streaming spoiler content as well, by the way, I like to look into some things that just pop in my head from time to time, and that's what these 3 tasks for today's video are going to be. Once again, getting Piety at lower attack. 2. Trying to attempt to get the Mask of Rebirth at TOA as a level 3. And 3. Trying to complete Fremennik trials without the reward XP, even after all the things that have been patched in this quest subsequently from my Defense Saga video on the matter. Upwards of 100 hours have just gone into these failed projects and these questions I asked myself randomly out of the blue. That's because a lot of the time, to repeat quests and testing of those quests, such as Knight's Training, there's a lot of prerequisites and I have to start over and make a brand new account for every single test, as I get the XP and can't go back and try it again without the XP unless I have a brand new account. The same goes for Fremennik trials and how I'm going to be trying to complete it today, as there are some skills required for each account, and once I've completed this step and done it wrong, well, I can't go back and try it again unless I have a fresh brand new account. So a lot of the work in today's video is not only in research, but building new accounts to test the ideas behind the research. People think coming up with these madman solutions might be easy for myself, but as you'll see in today's video, it takes hundreds of hours usually of preparation, as well as years of knowledge and just testing the most ridiculous things and learning from failures. So that's what we're going to be doing today once again. So first of all, I want to look at possibly getting Fremennik trials done without the quest reward XP after all the patches. The patches I know of specifically where you're not able to get duplicate exotic flowers, Sigmund the Merchant won't take more than 1 flower even if you do manage to somehow get duplicated flowers, and lastly, you're not able to force drop items that are supposed to be deleted on death anymore. They will just delete no matter what. But I wanted to see if the vote system was still scuffed and if it would auto-complete the quest at 9 votes. 7 being the normal amount you need to actually talk to Brunt the Chieftain at the end and complete the quest normally. What we found on my old Defense Saga video was if I somehow managed to get an extra vote, it would cross off some of the quest journal, and then if I managed to get a second extra vote as well, it would then cross off the quest journal further and just green log the quest without giving me the reward XP. So the question was, how do I get 2 extra votes now, not being from Sigmund the Merchant, or really any other of the council members, because they were all patched initially before, and I tried every single one of them, except I didn't extensively research Thorvald the Warrior as much as I could, and therefore we have to go back and make new accounts and try out getting multiple votes from Thorvald the Warrior's task, which is killing Koschei the Deathless. Well, in my previous video I noticed it was possible to spawn more than one Koschei the Deathless, so I wondered, how could I spawn as many as possible and kill them all at the same time without them despawning, because they have 10-minute despawn timers, and his last and final form is extremely hard to kill. He's got a lot of defense and a lot of HP, and in this room you're not supposed to be able to bring any gear or weapons. You also cannot attack any Deathless spawned by another person, so these all would have to be spawned by myself and somehow cloned. So it's really impossible, even if I tried my hardest, to kill 2 forms of his last form at the same time to get possibly 2 votes. But maybe I could smuggle in a way to do this, and that was through fletching. I found out you can take an unstrung crossbow along with the crossbow string and make a crossbow inside of there. Also, you can take in ammunition, which isn't checked by Thorvald when going down. So as long as I had an account with decent range, which I made these accounts 60 range as well as the requirement to make the myth crossbow with fletching, then I could test getting multiple votes by basically just using my crossbow and emerald bolts enchanted to poison the Deathless's last phase and kill multiple at a time while having them safe spotted. But how do I get multiple spawned? Well, I found out there's an area in the dungeon if you spawn the Deathless in and leave and go up to the ladder and go back down, that they'll stay spawned. If you spawn the Deathless anywhere to the southwestern area, well, that spawn will then disappear whenever you go up the ladder. But if you spawn him anywhere to the north, northeast, or east side of the map, he will stay there even after you've gone up the ladder and back down, and you can spawn yet another one. So I kept trying to spawn the Deathless in the east or northeastern parts of the cave, and therefore they would stay up for 10 minutes at a time, and from there I would just have to kill multiple of them at the same time, possibly behind an interface, because I noticed in my previous video that holding an interface open held the vote from being counted and held you from getting a Fremennik blade. So that was the plan. I was going to spawn multiple of these things, string a crossbow inside the dungeon, which shouldn't even be possible, and then kill multiple of them at the same time using the poison from Emerald Bolt's E and this crossbow. Also, yeah, it's a good thing I'm using range and a crossbow here, because this is a single way combat zone, and if any of these attack me, I can't attack the other one, and therefore it's best to have these things safe spotted and try and level out their HP to kill them all at the same time. So after sitting here for almost 10 minutes, I've leveled out their HP, got them down to the lowest possible point I can before really knowing what their HP is, and then poisoned them with a final Emerald Bolt E-Spec to renew the poison for 5 damage, which would scale down, and then sit there with an interface and just let these all die to poison, to then see if I could collect multiple votes from multiple kills of multiple of these NPCs. So it looks like I didn't even need to spawn multiple of these NPCs, because this guy doesn't die if you have an interface up. He'll just keep getting poisoned down to 0 HP, and it'll count as a kill every single time. You'll see what I mean when I take off the interface here, and it counts for several Fremennik blades instead of just one from a singular NPC. Yeah, this would be a nice high alch method, I guess, for an Iron Man or something, because these Fremennik blades are kind of worth something. As well, it's like having an infinite amount of adamant scimitars on the ground here. And it's a very interesting thing that happened, but no, I did not get extra votes for the council. I just got this singular one, although I did get multiple blades. In a last-ditch effort, I decided to go ahead and die to one of the Deathless, because I know you can get a vote if you die to this form as well as if you kill it, because this form is not even supposed to be killed. It's so strong, and the quest you're just meant to die to it. So I've already gotten 1 vote from killing this guy, and what happens if I decide to die? Will that give me an extra vote in the quest journal? I don't know, let's try it out. So I die, Thorvald tells me he gets his vote, I get 2 votes in the chat box, but when I check the quest journal, it still says I only have the correct amount of votes. So what this tells me is Jagex not only patched the flower method and handing things in to individual people, but they patched the entire vote system, and therefore even if you do manage to get an extra vote Well, it's just not going to count towards the quest log, and it's not going to auto-complete the quest and give you no XP reward. So what did we learn from this failure? Fremennik Trials is never going to be completable again, basically without XP. 2, you can get stackable interfaces from this area, kind of like I did in the Tizar fight pits during my episode 1 of Defense Saga, and possibly use those in the future. But I actually did some more research here, and it turns out every one of these stackable interfaces nowadays are area-based, therefore they're only usable inside the dungeon, and when you teleport out, it kills all the stackable interfaces. 3, you can actually smuggle ranged equipment inside Thorvald the Warrior's task area, which I haven't seen really anyone else do. And lastly, some NPCs' despawn timer is dependent on where they're spawned relative to you. Next, I'll be looking at how to acquire an item that no level 3 has ever gotten before, and that is the Mask of Rebirth. This mask was initially a cosmetic Easter egg from Tombs of Amascut raid, which no level 3 has ever gone into because you have to complete Beneath Cursed Sands, which has a lot of requirements, as well the boss being impossible to kill because it's immune to literally everything, recoils, venom, poison, etc. So no level 3 has even ever been to raids 3, until now. My friend Nabi sent me something interesting a few months ago, which included some guy who mistakenly went into TOA, even though he wasn't trying to go there at all. He looked further into it and told me what he found. What was found was another paft, but it was once again a floor 3 paft, similar to the one I used 3 years ago when the Nightmare was released, except this one you could time and you could hold for an indefinite amount of time. This was important because there's a 2000 instance mapping to the east side of the real map. Here there's actually 192 by 192 tiled instances that load and then wrap back around to the beginning of the square from left to right then down to up. Here I would hold open an instance with the coordinates I was trying to match from Cox, and then cycle through the instance mapping 2000 times with other accounts inside player-owned homes, opening and closing instances via the building mode, then to finally come back to that coordinate tile where I would try to put a specific instance in to then paft into. Luckily, TOA has some floor 3 properties. You can't paft into an instance that doesn't have any objects in floor 3, or else it gives you an invalid teleport. But TOA does have some objects floating around in floor 3, and I'm able to actually see the TOA room and technically go into TOA as a level 3. This path was done by going to Cox with a Group Iron Man account. It could be any Group Iron Man at level 3, anyone that has not lost prestige. From here I would try to join that Group Iron Man's raid on a normal account, being this level 3 here, and from there it would give me a warning message saying I was going to possibly de-prestige the Group Iron Man in the raid. You could hold this message up indefinitely and I could leave the raid on the Group Iron Man, and then whenever I was ready I could press through the message and it would try to send me in the raid that had closed forever ago after I wrapped back around the entire instance mapping and hopefully back into the coordinates of the new instance I loaded on a separate account. Sound confusing enough? Well, yeah, it was, but it gets worse. Once I finally wrapped 2000 instances around with alts inside player-owned homes, I then wanted to map an exact coordinate of a TOA room by accessing it on my alt account, and then I tested dying inside TOA to see yes, it does put you back at the start of this room. So my theory was I bring supplies to kill myself inside TOA when standing outside of the room, and it'll put me back at the start of the room even though I'm on floor 3. Unfortunately, when dying in this void, it did not recognize I was in TOA and sent me to Lumbridge instead of to the front of the room like it did on my other test account. So I thought I was initially going to go back inside TOA, then complete the rooms on the level 3 to get the key from the camel and then access the Mask of Rebirth and be the first level 3 to ever access TOA, much less get this cool cosmetic mask. But no, we ended up in Lumbridge, and although this path could be used for some cool things such as entering other players' homes as an Iron Man, you'd be stuck on floor 3 and basically a void where you could do nothing. This was a pretty useless path once again, like the old Nightmare one, because of its restrictions to being floor 3, and many instances have nothing on floor 3, giving you an invalid teleport no matter what the instance is. Very select few instances you can access because the coordinates aren't mapped from floor 3, such as this Vorkath instance here where I could literally sit in the ocean and do nothing. I also thought the death theory might work because technically when you check your death items on floor 3 of a POH, it says they're safe, therefore you would spawn back at the entrance of the portal if you were to die in a POH, so I thought this would apply to Tombs of Amascut as well. So what I initially learned from this failure was that some deaths and instances are instance based, while others are tile based on the coordinates of your character. Lastly, I wanted to look into making a Piety Obby tank without the fat 35 attack requirement for this build. Even 20 attack would be great, even 22 attack would be great, because I could still use a Saturated Heart and Pot Vengeance. But I just did not like the idea of 35 attack and how much combat it gave me, so I wanted to find a way to do Knight's Training Ground after the King's Ransom quest, and do this without the fat 20,000 attack XP reward. So how would we do it? First, I looked into possibly skipping the 20 attack requirement for Holy Grail, because that would even knock me down a few attack levels without having to get that initial 20 first. There was an old post on Reddit I found from like 2014 that said he was stuck inside Holy Grail quest because he accidentally used a fairy ring midway through the quest, and I thought maybe I could skip some of the quest steps such as killing the Black Knight Titan, which required me to wield the 20 attack Excalibur, by getting fairy rings on an account, which would save a few attack levels. Even though you do need 16 attack for fairy rings, I wouldn't need initially 20 to do King's Ransom. So I made an account that actually got fairy rings and Fairy Tale Part 1 done, and then went on to try Holy Grail with this quest step skip. Unfortunately, it did not work before the Black Knight Titan, as you could not use fairy rings to get to the location until after you've talked to the initial king in the original Fisher realm. But I could skip looking for his son, and therefore it acted like the quest was completed if I did use a fairy ring back in here, so it was not patched. It was kind of like I was hard locking myself out of this quest, and it said it was done even though I had not found the son and I had not brought him back to the area. He was still there and the quest was still yellow. Now, I tried all the obvious answers such as using alts to kill the Black Knight Titan, but you would always need to do the last damage, and you would always need the Excalibur equipped whenever you went through. If you didn't have the Excalibur equipped, but you were, say, using poison or something, it would never send you through. It would just say, oh, you need the Excalibur to kill me. So you would need the Excalibur equipped no matter what, therefore the 20 attack requirement. So what I was looking for was ways to skip this step entirely in the quest. My next idea was to try and find the Son of the King, summon him on an alt account, and see if the NPC was visible on another account that was partially through the quest, that could then skip that step of the quest entirely of killing the Black Knight Titan, and go straight into the new Fisher realm. Well, I got kind of somewhere here, but I couldn't skip the initial Black Knight Titan step of the quest. Now I found out I could though skip other steps in the quest after the Black Knight Titan, and therefore if I was doing a quest speedrun on Holy Grail, using an alt account like this would actually be optimal, as I was able to skip 2 steps in the quest and just go ahead and summon the sun with the NPC already out inside Goblin Village. But no matter what I did, I was stuck. I needed to wield an Excalibur to kill the Black Knight Titan. I could not skip this portion of the quest, and you obviously can't boost to wield an Excalibur. 20 attack is a hard requirement for this quest. I finally had a few accounts at Knight's Training Ground, and I tried everything I could to null the XP. First I tried flinching the NPCs, poisoning them, and logging out as soon as the tick of death occurred, possibly avoiding the XP drop. But I quickly figured out on this first attempt that there was an anti-log in place after he had initially died that would not let me log out, therefore I could not avoid the XP, and it fake logged me for about 3 seconds before dropping that fat XP on my account. But what happens if I were to log out the tick before death? Would it still go through the death whenever I'm logged out and possibly progress the mini quest? Doubtful, but let's try it. The chain mace here has a delayed hit splat, so this should allow me to actually get the kill while logged out, but I don't know if it'll continue the quest. None of these seem to work, so I'm going to try the next best thing, which is teleport the tick before death, before the queue rolls in to pull me out. Once again, nothing, not even a forced teleport back or a completion, although this was hopeful because no XP was dropped, but nothing came out of it either. Next, let's try on the last NPC to teleport out the tick of his death instead of the tick before. So technically a forced teleport, but we got the XP and forced teleporting wasn't our goal. Let's take another account here who's done one small favor and all the requirements for this and throw it in there again and try something else. Let's try leaving through the door on the last hit and seeing what happens in a populated world where the instance will close as soon as possible. Well, once again a forced teleport, but it's a little bit more clearance here and the timed last hit was a little bit sooner. Technically I could stall as the last hit occurs and then stall the XP from dropping, maybe into a system update. But I found out basically you don't unlock the prayer and this mini quest completed until the XP drops at the same time. So this would leave the mini quest basically yellow logged and never give me the access to the prayer. I would have to go back and complete the Knight's Training Ground again and again until I got the XP, making it entirely impossible to ever avoid this XP as far as I know. Once again, if you have any ideas in the comments below, hit me up with them. And no, I do not think 1000 actions into a system update with this XP queued would do anything but basically just make me redo the Knight's Training Ground when I were to log back in, because it would not give me the access to piety. Every requirement for piety is lined up perfectly with the XP drop and the last dialogue of the squire talking to you. So I think we're screwed on this idea, and if I ever want to make a piety obby again like I did in the past actually, well, I'm just going to have to go ahead and get 35 attack, which unfortunately is something I don't know if I want to do. I might. I don't know, I was kind of thinking about it, but we'll save that for another video. So what I found out with this failure is there's another trap force teleport in the game. Although super quick, it's got high priority, and it rolls in some XP with it. As well, I found you can skip a few steps in Holy Grail quests if you're going for a speed run or just trying to get that done as fast as possible. Oh yeah, and speaking of speed and getting things done efficiently, another thing I found out that was quite weird was if you log out or teleport outside of this Knight's Training Ground, it doesn't reset your progress whenever fighting these NPCs. It lets you continue on the last one you were attacking, and trust me, these things make you go through a lot of supplies if you're not flinching them. So if you want to get this fight done super quick, you could technically just log out or teleport away, restock, then come back, and you'd end up on the last NPC you were attacking, rather than left through the door. If you did that, well, it would reset all the knights and you'd have to redo all of them in order once again. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the niche gameplay in today's video. It wasn't all success, it was actually all failure, but we did find some things along the way which all count as success and which could possibly be used in the future if they aren't changed, which they probably will be. I just wanted to put a video out there as it's been a while and I'm stuck on a long grind once again. I hope to see you all next time. I hope you have a great day, great rest of the week, and if you're American, a great Thanksgiving.